Hey guys, tonight we're peeling back the starry veil on a bedtime history that's way more twisted than your average horoscope scroll. Picture this. What if the zodiac isn't just a fun circle of animals and symbols, but a cosmic graveyard etched with the scars of ancient underdogs betrayed by gods who acted like dysfunctional CEOs up on Olympus? Yeah, shocking fact over 2,000 years ago. The Babylonians kicked it off as a simple circle of little animals for farming calendars, but the Greeks turned it into a savage soap opera of kidnappings, drownings, and ironic, immortal punishments. Ever wondered why your sign feels like it carries a hidden curse? Stick around for the bedtime history twist that'll make you question every starry prediction, blending light horror with that sarcastic edge on divine drama. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I love seeing how far this sleepy little time machine reaches. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Imagine yourself lying in the cool shadows of your room, the faint chill from the night sky seeping through like an ancient whisper, carrying the smoky tang of Delphi's temple incense thick, acrid, clinging to your skin like a bad omen. That's the discomfort kicking in. Right. The irony hits hard, these gods, painted as all-powerful saviors, were really just petty tyrants scripting betrayals that left underdogs like farm boys and princesses frozen in eternal poses of agony. Take the Babylon to Greek handoff historians debate if it was a tool for social control in Babylonian empires or pure artistic flair in Hellenistic skies. Much like how colonial American pioneers faced divine plagues and betrayals, turning resilience into folklore scars. But here's the absurd tidbit. What started as practical star maps ended up memorializing a kid's sacrificial altar in Aries, teasing a bedtime history of survival that's equal parts creepy and oddly empowering. Feel that ironic tug yet as you settle deeper. Let the stars chill wrap around you like a textured blanket of velvet darkness, pulling you into the first underdog's tale. As you settle deeper, let the stars chill wrap around you like a textured blanket of velvet darkness, pulling you into the first underdog's tale, the one that kicks off this whole twisted zodiac cycle with Aries, the ram that's equal parts hero and heartbreak. You're Phrixus now, a wide-eyed kid in the royal halls of ancient Boeotia, where the air hangs heavy with the scent of hearth smoke and unspoken family grudges. It's that classic underdog setup, your mum Nephili, a cloud nymph whipped up by Hera herself to trick your dad King Athamas into marriage. But then he falls for the scheming mortal Ino. Oh, Ino, what a piece of work. She's like that ruthless stepmom from a Great Depression-era novel, the kind who'd sabotage the family farm to push her own kid ahead, starving the land just to climb the ladder. Yeah, irony alert, she poisons the seed grain in secret, sparking a famine that has everyone whispering about oracles and sacrifices. And guess who gets the short straw? You and your little sister Hela, the innocent underdogs caught in this royal power play. Feel that discomfort creeping in, like a knot tightening in your chest. The palace feels colder now, the stone floors rough under your bare feet, gritty with dust from the parched fields outside. The villagers are desperate, their faces gaunt and hollow, and the king's messengers come back from Delphi with what sounds like divine word sacrifice the prince to end the hunger. But it's all Ino's bribe, a fake prophecy twisted to fit her agenda. You're led to the altar at dawn, the metallic tang of incense sharp, almost choking filling your nostrils as priests in rough wool robes circle you. The blade gleams under the blood-red moonlight filtering through the temple columns, cold and unforgiving, like it's mocking your helplessness. Your heart pounds, a wild drum in your ears, and Hela clings to your side, her small hand sweaty and trembling in yours. That's the horror of it, isn't it? Not some monster from the deep, but betrayal from the ones who should protect you, the family that's supposed to be your safe harbor. It's that inner irony biting at you, gods and kings playing chess with mortal lives, and you're just a pawn, feeling the chill of the marble slab against your back as they tie you down. But here's where the absurdity kicks in, a tidbit that'll make you chuckle through the unease the ram shows up like a divine plot twist from Poseidon or Hermes, depending on who's spinning the yarn. This golden fleeced beast, wings beating like thunder, crashes the sacrifice party, Priests drop their knives in shock. The crowd gasps, and suddenly you're scrambling onto its back with hell, the wool warm and strangely soft under your fingers, like a lifeline woven from sunlight. Up you go, the wind whipping fierce and cold, tearing at your tunic with icy fingers that sting your skin. The earth shrinks below, fields turning to patches of brown despair, and the sea rushes up to meet you, salty spray hitting your face, mixing with the hot tears streaming down your cheeks. That taste, briny and bitter, coats your throat, a reminder of the freedom you're grasping at. You're soaring eastward toward Colchis. But oh, the gods love their cruel jokes. Hela slips maybe the height, maybe the fear, and plummets into the strait below. You reach out, your fingers brushing empty air, but it's too late. That moment etches itself as the first eternal scar. The Hellespont born from her fall, a churning wound on the world's skin where waves crash eternally, foaming white like her lost cries. And the irony? It doesn't stop there. You make it to King Eat's court, safe but utterly alone. That golden ram kneeling for you to sacrifice it to Zeus in thanks. Yeah, absurd. Right. The very creature that saved your neck gets turned into a fleece, hung in a dragon-guarded grove, setting up Jason's whole Argonaut mess later. It's like the gods' version of thanks for the ride. Now pay up with your life. Historians still debate this one's roots. Some point to Babylonian influences where Ares might echo early hybrid animal symbols, like the goatfish motifs in Mesopotamian seals representing wisdom gods, questioning if the ram's heroic flight was borrowed from those ancient Near Eastern tales or purely Greek invention. Either way, it leaves you, Phrixus, stranded in a foreign land, the weight of survival pressing down like a heavy cloak. Think about the Dust Bowl folks back in 1930s America, families scraping by in Oklahoma dust storms, underdogs enduring famine and loss, watching siblings or kin slip away to the unknown, yet pushing on with that gritty resilience. It's the same vibe you survive the altar, but at what cost? The empathy swells here, doesn't it? For that kid version of you, heart aching with the texture of wool still fresh in your palms, the sea's roar echoing in your ears. But as the stars wheel overhead, Ares rising like a silent sentinel, it whispers a reflection. New beginnings are messy, scarred things, but they carve out space for whatever comes next. Breathe easy now. Let that irony settle into a quiet understanding, pulling you toward the calm of sleep as the cycle turns. But as the cycle turns, that quiet understanding from Ares' scars lingers like a faint echo in the night, drawing you deeper into the Zodiac's web of underdog woes. Now, slip into the skin of Europa, the innocent Phoenician princess who's about to become the next twisted chapter in this bedtime history of divine deceptions. You're out in the sun-dappled meadows by the shore, the air thick with the sweet, earthy perfume of wildflowers, jasmine and thyme, mingling in a deceptive calm that masks the storm brewing above. Life feels simple here in ancient Phoenicia, with the salty tang of the Mediterranean breeze brushing your cheeks like a gentle promise, your companions giggling as you all gather blooms for garlands. The grass is soft and dewy under your bare feet, tickling your toes with that innocent texture of springtime freedom. But, oh, the irony starts whispering right away, doesn't it? You're just an underdog girl, daughter of King Agenor, living in a world where beauty is both a gift and a curse, much like those colonial American women in the 1600s who ventured into the wild frontiers, only to vanish into the unknown, abducted by fate or foes. Their stories swallowed by the expanding borders of a so-called new world. That discomfort builds slow, a knot in your gut, because you sense something off in the air, a watchful presence that's not quite right. And then he appears, or rather, it does. Zeus, that self-proclaimed king of the gods, has been eyeing you from Olympus like the ultimate cosmic stalker, his divine ego too bloated to take no for an answer. Sarcasm drips from the heavens here, this almighty thunder hurler, who could reshape mountains with a flick, chooses to slink into the herd as a bull pristine white, horns curving like polished ivory, hide gleaming smoother than the finest silk from your father's looms. It's absurd, isn't it? The god of the sky playing dress-up as farm animal, all to pull off what we'd call date rape in ancient times, a twisted abduction dressed up as romance. Historians love debating this one's layers. Some trace the bull motif back to Egyptian or Minoan rituals, where young folks leaped over bulls in fertility dances, questioning if Taurus was less about Zeus's lust and more a borrowed symbol of sacred strength from those older cultures along the Nile or Crete's palaces. Either way, the bull stands there amid the grazing cattle, unnaturally still, its breath warm and steady like a summer zephyr, eyes holding a deceptive gentleness that lulls you closer. Your friends laugh, draping flowers around its neck, the petals soft and velvety against its flanks, and you, curious underdog that you are, reach out to stroke its muzzle. The texture surprises you warm, almost alive with a subtle quiver, like touching sun-warmed marble that's secretly pulsing with hidden power. That inner irony twists sharper now, a discomfort like icy fingers tracing your spine amid the meadow's warmth. Why would a god stoop to this? Because direct approaches don't work for a mortal guarded like you. That's why it's the ultimate power play, cloaked in innocence. You climb onto its back on a whim, the broad muscles shifting under you like a living wave, firm yet yielding, and for a heartbeat, it feels harmless, like straddling a sun-baked rock by the beach. But then the bull moves not with lazy grazes, but a sudden, powerful surge toward the shore. Your companion's shouts fade behind you, sharp and panicked, as hooves pound the sand, kicking up gritty sprays that sting your legs. The sea rises to greet you, waves crashing with a roar that drowns your cries. The water's chill shock slamming into your body as the bull plunges in. Salt spray whips your face, the briny stench overwhelming, coating your lips with a gritty, metallic tang that tastes of fear and betrayal. You're clinging now, fingers digging into the bull's hide rougher in the wet, slick with foam like oiled leather, and the wind howls past, tearing at your hair and clothes with relentless fury, exposing skin to the raw bite of the elements. Deeper into the discomfort you go, heart racing like a trapped bird in your chest, the irony pounding harder this beautiful beast, so calm at first, is carrying you away from everything familiar. An underdog princess reduced to cargo in Zeus's ego trip. Dolphins arc alongside, their sleek bodies slicing the waves like mocking escorts, leaping in joyful arcs that contrast your terror. The coastline dwindles to a hazy line, the sun dipping low and painting the horizon in bloody oranges, while the water deepens from turquoise to inky violet, cold currents tugging at your dangling feet like invisible hands pulling you under. Hours blur, or is it days, the bull's relentless strength cutting through swells that slap against its sides, soaking you to the bone, the chill seeping into your muscles until they ache with numb exhaustion. That texture of the sea, slimy and unforgiving, clings to your skin, a constant reminder of your vulnerability. Inner thoughts swirl. How did a flower-picking outing turn into this nightmare? The god's love feels like a cruel joke, a sarcasm etched in the stars waiting above. Finally, an unfamiliar shore emerges Crete, fragrant with cypress and pine, but to you, it's a prison island rising like a shadowed fate. The bull hauls itself onto the sand, pebbles crunching under its hooves, and as solid ground meets your trembling legs, the form shifts. The white hide melts away, revealing Zeus in all his smug glory. Eyes burning not with gentleness, but triumphant possession. The absurdity peaks here instead of the god getting the starry memorial. It's the bull form that Zeus honors in the heavens, head lowered in eternal charge, horns curved like a perpetual threat. Tidbit to chew on that bull's placement ties back to fertility rites, but the real twisted legacy you bear sons like Minos, whose own betrayal by Poseidon spawns the Minotaur, a half-man, half-bull horror lurking in labyrinths, a shocking echo of your abduction turned monstrous family curse. It's like those colonial tales of women lost on the frontier, their disappearances birthing legends of resilience amid the pain, where underdogs like you endure to reshape their worlds. Feel the sarcasm settle in that discomfort, the irony of a gift from the gods leaving you forever changed, a scar of desire etched in the night sky. As the bull stars rise, marking the wake of winter with their bold outline, they whisper a reflection through the trauma strength and new life often come wrapped in shadows. But recognizing the cost brings a strange peace. Let that empathy for your stolen innocence ease the knot in your chest, the meadow's lost softness fading into a textured memory that lulls you onward, toward Taurus's lingering chill and the cycle's next dark turn. As the cycle's next dark turn beckons, That lingering chill from Taurus wraps around you like a damp fog rolling off the shore, easing you from Europa's stolen shores into the fractured bonds of Gemini, the twins whose story hits like a gut punch of brotherly loyalty gone sideways. Now, you're Castor, the mortal underdog in this Spartan royal mess, growing up in the shadow of Queen Leda's divided legacy. The air in the palace halls carries the sharp, metallic scent of oiled spears and leather straps from the training grounds, a constant reminder of the warrior life you're both born into and burdened by. Your twin Pollux, sired by Zeus in his swan disguise, talk about a divine one-night stand gets the immortal glow-up, while you're stuck with plain old King Tyndareus blood, making you the everyday underdog in a family that's already a powder keg of godly favoritism. Feel that irony settling in like a heavy cloak on your shoulders, rough and unyielding, the fabric chafing against your skin. It's the kind of setup that screams unfair from the start, where brotherhood should be your anchor, but ends up feeling like a chain, pulling you into conflicts that test every ounce of your grit. The discomfort builds as you and Pollux train side by side in the dusty Spartan fields, the ground hard and packed under your sandals, kicking up clouds of dry earth that coat your throat with a gritty, choking dust. You're the horse tamer extraordinaire, your hands calloused and textured from reins and spears, feeling the pull of a stallion's mane like a trusted extension of your own strength. Pollux, with his divine edge, dominates the boxing ring, his fists landing with that extra thunderous crack against leather pads, the sweat-slick thud echoing like distant war drums. Together, your unstoppable poets sing of your exploits, sailors invoke your names against storms, but deep down, that inner knot tightens, a whisper of unease about the unequal fates hanging over you like storm clouds. The palace smells of olive oil lamps flickering in the evenings, warm and woody, mixed with the faint acrid tang of fear from knowing Zeus's gifts come with strings. It's absurd. Isn't it God's crashing family beds like uninvited guests at a backyard barbecue, leaving half-siblings with superpowers while you grind it out as the regular Joe? Historians chew on this one's origins endlessly. The Dioscuri twins might stem from ancient Indo-European myths of paired sky gods, filtered through Babylonian star lore where twin figures guarded sailors, sparking debates on whether Gemini was a cultural mashup or a pure Greek invention to explain those bright twin stars in the sky. That irony sharpens into full discomfort when the feud erupts, pulling you into a clash with your cousins Idas and Lynceus over some mix of pride, cattle raids, and women classic underdog territory where family ties snap like brittle twigs. You're out in the rugged hills west of Sparta, the air crisp with pine resin and the musky earthiness of trampled grass, your spear heavy in your grip, its wooden shaft smooth and familiar from years of practice. The sun beats down mercilessly, baking your skin until it feels tight and raw, sweat trickling in salty rivulets that sting your eyes. Pollux fights like a storm unleashed, his blows carrying that immortal fury, but you're right there, mortal heart pounding with raw determination, the clash of metal on metal ringing in your ears like a blacksmith's hammer on anvil sharp, relentless, vibrating through your bones. You feel the irony in every parry. Why should brotherhood mean watching your twin outshine you, only to drag you into this blood-soaked mess? The ground turns slick with the warm, coppery stickiness of blood, its metallic tang overwhelming the pine scent, coating your tongue as you gasp for breath. Your cousins press hard, their shouts a cacophony of rage, and in the frenzy, a spear finds its mark yours. The pain blooms hot and immediate, a searing tear through your side, the texture of the wound like ragged cloth ripping apart, blood soaking your tunic in a wet, clinging warmth that chills you to the core. Pollux turns the tide, scattering the foes in a whirlwind of vengeance. But victory tastes like ash in your mouth. You're lying there on the bloodied grass, the blades prickly and damp against your back, staring up at the fading light as life ebbs away. That inner discomfort peaks, a wave of irony crashing over you, all those shared hunts and battles, the unbreakable bond forged in sweat and laughter. Reduced to this, your mortal coil unraveling while Pollux stands immortal, his face twisted in grief that mirrors your own fading vision. He begs Zeus, his father in this mess, to share the gift of eternity, and in some versions, the god splits it between Olympus and the underworld, a half measure that's as sarcastic as it gets. Tidbit to raise an eyebrow, those twin stars of Gemini weren't just pretty lights. Ancient sailors swore they appeared as ghostly flames on ship masts during storms, guiding vessels to safety, an absurd superstition born from twin tragedy, like the gods tossing a lifeline after yanking the rug out. Modern echoes hit close to home. To think of those WFU American soldiers, brothers in arms forged in the trenches of Normandy, where bonds twisted under the weight of war's unequal toll, one surviving to carry the scars while the other fades. That same gritty empathy pushing underdogs to reflect on loyalty's heavy price. As Pollux cradles you, the texture of his hands rough from endless fights, pressing against your wound in a futile bid to stem the flow, the world blurs into a haze of pain and reluctant acceptance. The irony lingers like the metallic aftertaste of blood on your lips. Immortality isn't a prize, it's a curse that fractures what it should preserve, leaving eternal separation in its wake. But in that fading moment, empathy blooms for the underdog. You are the one who fought fair, loved deep, and paid the ultimate tab. Historians debate the twins' deeper roots were the Dioscuri inspired by Indo-European twin deities, perhaps echoing Babylonian astral twins that protected travellers, or a standalone Greek flourish to humanize the stars. Either way, Zeus hoists you both into the sky, side by side as Gemini, two bright points forever close yet divided by realms, the recurring scar of immortality etched in their glow. Feel that shift from discomfort to a quieter reflection. The hills' pine-scented breeze cooling your fevered skin, lulling the irony into a soothing hum. The twin stars rise together now, a constellation of fractured but enduring brotherhood, whispering that true bonds outlast even godly games. Let that empathy wrap around you like a worn blanket, easing the tension as the zodiac's wheel spins onward into the deepening shadows of the next tale. Into the deepening shadows of the next tale. That worn blanket of empathy from Gemini's fractured bonds still clings to you, soft and threadbare, but now it starts to feel heavier, laced with the damp chill of betrayal that pulls you toward Cancer, the sign of loyal futility, where underdogs like you get tangled in the crossfire of divine pettiness, fighting monsters not for glory, but just to keep your head above the muck. Euryalus now, the young sidekick to your uncle Heracles, both of you underdogs in this grand scheme of Hera's endless grudge against the hero for being Zeus's bastard son. The air down in the Lerna marshes hangs thick and oppressive, a cloying rot that invades your nostrils like spoiled meat, left too long in the sun, sulphurous, almost alive, making your stomach churn with that initial wave of discomfort. The ground squelches under your boots, the mud viscous and sucking, pulling at your ankles with a greedy texture that's equal parts slime and grit, like stepping into a living trap. You're here for the second labour, torch in hand and cart at the ready, while Heracles wields his club. But deep down, you sense the irony gnawing at you. Hera, queen of the gods, couldn't just let Zeus's kid slide, so she cooks up this Hydra nightmare, a multi-headed beast that's less monster and more spiteful pet project. It's like being the loyal intern in some cutthroat corporate America setup, where the jealous boss, Hera in this case, sends distractions to sabotage the star employee, leaving you, the underdog assistant, to clean up the mess. That discomfort settles in your chest like a stone, heavy and unyielding as you two venture deeper into the swamp. The reeds rustle with a sinister whisper, their sharp edges brushing your arms like brittle fingers, leaving faint scratches that itch and burn in the humid air. Frogs croak sporadically, then fall silent, as if even the wildlife knows something foul is stirring. Heracles spots the Hydra first, its den coiled under an overhanging bank, roots dangling like twisted ropes into the black water. You light your torch, the flame crackling to life with a warm, flickering glow that pushes back the gloom just enough, but the smoke stings your eyes, acrid and woody, mixing with the swamp's decay to create a nauseating haze. The beast surges up, 9 heads lifting like blackened lilies blooming in reverse, eyes glowing low and feral, teeth bared in a wet, dripping grin that sends a shiver down your spine. The irony hits you hard here. This isn't some fair fight. It's Hera's twisted revenge, forcing Heracles and you, his faithful nephew into a slog through filth for a crime he didn't even commit. Your heart races, palms slick with sweat despite the chill. The torch handle rough and splintery in your grip, a small comfort in the face of those writhing necks. Heracles charges in, club swinging with that mighty thud against bonewood on skull echoing like a door slamming in an empty hall, each blow sending vibrations up your arm as you follow close. But the horror unfolds quick and ugly. One head snaps off, stump hissing steam, and two more sprout in its place, grotesque and immediate, like weeds fueled by spite. The air fills with the beast's foul breath, a rancid mix of sulphur and old blood that coats your throat, making you gag as you dodge a lashing tail whipping through reeds, tearing them with a sharp snap. You learn fast, the discomfort turning to frantic resolve, pin a neck with your knee, the scaly texture cold and leathery under your weight, like wrestling oiled hide, while Heracles hacks through. You thrust the torch forward, the heat searing your face as flames kiss the stump, cauterizing it with a bitter scream that pierces the night, the smell of charred flesh rising sharp and nauseating, burning your nostrils like overcooked meat gone wrong. It's a rhythm now. Cut, burn, step back for a ragged breath, the mud sucking at your feet with every move, gritty particles embedding in your skin. Your arms ache, muscles screaming from the strain, but you push on, the recurring scar of this labor already forming in your mind, heads regrowing like ghosts from the black mud, haunting every swing. And then, the absurd twist drops like a bad joke from the gods themselves. Out crawls the crab. Carcinus, Hera's little helper slinking from the murky water, its shell cracked and jagged like a broken shield, legs churning sideways with deliberate menace. Sarcasm from the heavens, like this pint-sized pest, sent by the jealous queen as a distraction, clamps onto Heracles' ankle, your uncle. The mighty hero, its chitinous grip like vice teeth sinking into flesh, the texture unyielding and cold, drawing blood that mixes with the swamp slime in a warm, sticky trickle. You see the shock in Heracles' eyes, that momentary stagger in the mud, the hydra lunging while he's off balance, jaws closing on his shoulder with a sickening crunch. The irony boils up inside you. A bitter laugh caught in your throat amid the chaos. Hera's so petty she deploys a crab, of all things. Like a jealous boss in modern American boardrooms sicking HR on the rival exec during a big merger, underdog loyalty twisted into sabotage, where you're just the nephew holding the torch, feeling the discomfort of being collateral in someone else's grudge. Historians still hash this out. The Hydra's multi-head region might draw from Egyptian Nile crocodile lore, where beasts symbolized chaos and rebirth, debating if Hera's curse was infused with those foreign myths via trade routes, or purely a Greek spin on monstrous trials. You dive in without thinking, dragging the torch across another stump while Heracles shakes off the Hydra's bite, the club's shuddering impact booming like thunder. But the crab won't quit. Its legs churn the mud into a foul paste, pulling like it could drag a giant under by sheer spite. The shell's rough edges scraping against boot leather. The stink intensifies, rot and brine overwhelming as you shift your weight and bring your heel down crack. The shell splits with a flat, brittle report, like stepping on dry twigs, the creature folding into the muck and sliding back to the water like a discarded pot. Heracles finishes the Hydra, burying the immortal head under a rock at the Argos Road. The steam rising in thin veils that curl around you like ghostly fingers, the air finally settling into a heavy silence, broken only by your laboured breaths. Tidbit that'll twist your lip in sarcasm. That crab, crushed for its futile loyalty to Hera, gets catastrophized anyway, hoisted into the stars as cancer, a faint scatter honouring obedience over success. Absurd as getting a participation trophy from hell after failing spectacularly. It's like those American union workers in the early 20th century, betrayed by fat cat executives during strikes, their loyalty to the company mocked in the end, yet their endurance becoming the scar that fuels reflection on what blind devotion really costs. The discomfort eases into a weary empathy now, doesn't it? For you. Iolaus? Torch-scorched hands throbbing with the texture of burned wood and seared flesh, standing in the swamp's aftermath as steam thins away. The crab's faint form twinkles overhead later, a constellation of sideways creep in the summer gate, its stars whispering through the haze like a half-remembered warning. That recurring scar of the Hydra's regrowth haunts the sky, a reminder that some fights multiply the pain, but facing them head-on carves out a quiet strength. Modern parallels sting with the same irony. Think of those union underdogs in the auto industry crashes of the 80s. Executives playing hero by sending crabs like layoffs to distract, leaving workers to cauterize their own wounds with grit and reflection. Breathe through it. Let the swamp's rot fade from your senses, the mud's grip loosening as the stars rise, pulling you from this loyal quagmire toward Leo's savage roar, where the shadows deepen even further. Toward Leo's savage roar, where the shadows deepen even further, that quagmire's chill from cancer starts to lift, replaced by the dry, scorching bite of sun-baked hills that draw you into the heart of raw, unfiltered underdog fury. Now, you're Heracles, the mighty yet burdened labourer, fresh off the Hydra slog and already neck-deep in Hera's next petty scheme, sent by your cowardly cousin King Eurystheus to hunt the Nemean lion, a beast that's terrorising the countryside like a nightmare on steroids. The air in those western hills near Mycenae hits you first, thick with the dusty scent of crushed thyme and sun-bleached scrub, a parched aroma that clings to your throat like a warning of the violence ahead. Your sandals crunch over rocky paths, the ground rough and unyielding underfoot, jagged stones pressing into your soles with every step, a constant gritty reminder that this isn't some heroic quest for glory. It's just another grind in the underdog life, courtesy of a king who's too spineless to lift a finger himself. Feel that irony creeping in like a thorn under your skin, sharp and irritating Eurystheus, holed up in his palace. Issues the command with official calm, no talk of honour, just a sealed scroll like a bad memo from the boss ordering you to drag that lion back or end its reign of terror. It's absurdly fitting for the Gaia ruler who later hides in a storage jar when you show up with your trophy, peeking out like a scared kid during a colonial witch hunt in Salem, where accusers played God while the accused underdogs faced the noose. That discomfort stirs in your gut, a low rumble of resentment, because you're the one out here, sweat already beading on your brow in the relentless heat, while he schemes from safety. The journey to Nemea feels endless, the hills rolling like waves of baked earth, the texture of the scrub brush snagging at your tunic dry, prickly, leaving faint red welts that itch under the sun's glare. You've heard the tales from terrified shepherds, the lion slinking from its ravine at dusk, dragging oxen from yokes with casual swipes, its tracks like massive bowls sunk into the dust, deep and ominous. The air grows heavier as you near, carrying a faint, musky undercurrent of predator wild and primal, mixing with the thyme to create a scent that's both alluring and terrifying, like the edge of a storm you can't outrun. Your bow's strung tight across your back, quiver rattling softly with arrows fletched from eagle feathers, smooth and balanced in your hand. But deep down, you know it'll be useless. The stories say this beast's hide defies iron, spears bouncing off like thorns on leather. That inner irony twists tighter, a bitter knot in your chest born of Zeus's fling, hated by Hera for it, and now you're the underdog enforcer, cleaning up her world's messes one impossible task at a time. The discomfort builds as you spot the first carcass, a cow torn open where neck meets shoulder, the flesh peeled back like a discarded blanket, no bite marks on bone, just raw power on display. Kneeling there, your fingers trace the ragged edges, the texture warm and sticky from drying blood, a coppery smell rising sharp and metallic, turning your stomach as you realize this lion isn't hunting for hunger, it's practicing dominance, reveling in the resistance of living things. Pushing on, the path narrows to a shelf of rock overlooking the valley, the wind picking up with a hot, dry gust that whips dust into your eyes, gritty and stinging like sandpaper. And there it is, the Nemean lion stepping into view, larger than the whispers promised, its mane a flowing bronze wave catching the sunlight in blinding flashes, body heavy and clean, eyes watching you with the calm calculation of a craftsman sizing up his tool. No roar yet, just that predatory stillness. The air thickening with its musky scent, overpowering the time like a territorial claim. You loose the first arrow bowstring singing taut against your fingers, the shaft whistling through the air striking true at the shoulder, but it bounces off harmlessly, clattering to the rocks like a joke, another to the ribs, same refusal, a third at the throat, splintering on impact. The beast blinks once, rolling forward with a lazy step that belies the coiled fury beneath, its paws silent on the stone, pads textured like worn leather. The irony slams home now, that discomfort flaring into frustration, all your strength, your labours, reduced to futility against this god-forged freak. Dropping the bow, its wood still warm from your grip, you heft the club. Olive wood cut fresh and springy in your palm, the weight reassuring yet futile against such toughness. You drive it back into broken ground. Thorns and rocks forming a jagged ring. The lion gliding low with dust veiling its approach like a shroud. It feints right, then lunges straight. The club meets skull with a boom like stone on stone, but the paw counters, a blur that lifts you off your feet, hurling you into brush that tears at your arms with sharp, fibrous pricks, drawing thin lines of blood that trickle warm and sticky. The cave looms nearby, a limestone pocket with two mouths angled just so, perfect for ambushes, dark voids swallowing light. The air inside cooler, musty with the scent of damp earth and old kills, bones crunching underfoot like brittle twigs. That inner knot of irony tightens further. This place taught the lion patience, turning it into a master of traps, while you're the intruder, underdog forced to play by its rules. You block one entrance with saplings and stones, the bark rough and splintery against your hands, sweat salting the cuts as the sun shifts, casting long shadows that dance mockingly. The silence deepens, insects pausing their hum, birds holding still. You feel watched. The cave's chill breath on your neck like a predator's exhale. It emerges without fanfare, slipping through the gap like liquid shadow, hanging between rock and light for an instant that stretches eternal. You drop the club the space too tight and grab the mane, hair coarse like oil-soaked rope, the body's heat a furnace radiating through the pelt, singeing your senses with its wild musk. The lion twists. Striking for your throat, you catch the jaw in your forearm, teeth grinding against muscle like files on iron, the pressure immense, bone deep, ache spreading. You drive a knee under ribs, crushing breath in a guttural wheeze that echoes off walls, the cave amplifying the struggle into a low drum of dust and pebbles avalanching in small slides. Claws rake your back, furrowing deep with a hot tear, the texture of shredded flesh raw and pulsing, blood welling warm and slick. You hold on, strength waning to a steady burn, minutes stretching like seasons until the great body slackens, heat draining like water from a cracked jar. The irony floods you then, discomfort mixing with weary triumph you've won, but at what scar to your soul, the hide won't yield to blades your sword skates uselessly. Metal cold and unfeeling, so you use a claw, the lion's own weapon parting the belly with a low, surrendering rip, the seam soft and giving like overripe fruit. Stripping it feels ritualistic, the pelt heavy and warm in your hands, fur dense and luxurious, yet stained with the grit of battle, draping over your shoulders like a mantle that frames your face with fangs, a trophy that screams both victory and the cost. The smell of the cave clings, earthy and blood-tinged, fading slowly as you step into evening, the sky bruised purple like crushed grapes. Villagers emerge warily, nodding thanks with bread and water, the simple textures of sustenance grounding you after the savagery. Back in Tiryns, Eurystheus bolts into his jar at the sight, issuing future orders from the dark, a coward's echo of colonial witch trials, where accusers hid behind accusations while underdogs like you faced the flames. Tidbit that twists the knife, that lion skin becomes your signature, but it's absurd, fashioned from fear itself, a mocking underdog emblem that hides as much as it reveals. Like gladiators in America's underground fight rings today, emerging bloodied yet armoured in their scars, resilience born from the ring's brutal irony. Historians debate the lion's roots, perhaps drawn from Near Eastern cults in Babylonian art, where lions symbolized royal power and chaos, questioning if Nemia's beast was a Greek twist on those ancient emblems of divine ferocity. As you trudge home under the emerging stars, the skin's weight a constant, textured reminder on your back, coarse fur against sweat-slick skin. The empathy rises for the underdog warrior you are, pain throbbing with each step, reflection dawning on patience's savage price. That recurring scar of the cave's darkness etches deeper, an eternal mark of strength forged in betrayal's fire. Let the hill's time-scented breeze cool the ache, the irony softening into a quiet resolve, as Leo's sickle-shaped stars hook the horizon, beckoning you from this triumph's burden toward Virgo's forsaken whispers, where the shadows shift once more. Where the shadows shift once more into Virgo's forsaken whispers, that quiet resolve from Leo's triumph starts to fray at the edges, like a well-worn harvest basket unraveling under the weight of too many empty seasons, guiding you gently, yet insistently, toward the crumbling heart of justice itself. Now, you're Astrea, the underdog maiden goddess of fairness, daughter of Zeus and Themis in some tellings, or perhaps born of dawn and the stars in others. Either way, you're the last flickering light in a world that's gone from golden paradise to a gritty, backstabbing grind that feels all too familiar. The threshing floors of ancient Greece stretch out before you under a relentless sun, the air heavy with the dry, dusty scent of chaff and sun-bleached straw, a powdery haze that settles on your skin like fine grit, irritating and inescapable, coating your simple linen gown with a texture that's rough and clinging, a constant whisper of the decline you're witnessing. Back in the Golden Age, everything was effortless doors flung open to strangers, fields yielding without toil, but now, as the ages slide from silver to bronze and crash into iron, that discomfort blooms in your chest like a thorn bush taking root, sharp and unrelenting. The irony stings deepest, hear you, the embodiment of order and rightness. Stand by helplessly as humanity twists the very balance you were born to uphold, much like the American dream's slow rot during the Great Depression, where folks went from bootstraps optimism to breadlines and betrayal, underdogs scraping by in Hoovervilles while the powerful pulled the strings from afar. Wander with me through those early signs of decay, the discomfort building like a storm cloud over the fields. You're in a bustling village marketplace at dawn, the ground packed hard from countless feet, its surface uneven and pitted, jarring your sandals with every step as you move among the stalls. The smell hits you first, overripe figs splitting open in baskets, their sweet rot mingling with the sharper tang of sweat from haggling merchants, creating a cloying fog that clings to your hair and makes your eyes water. Weights on scales are filed down just enough to cheat the buyer, the brass cool and slightly oily under your fingers when you test them discreetly. A subtle dishonesty that feels like a betrayal of the earth's honest yield. Voices rise in arguments over boundary stones, the shouts rough and edged like razors scraping against stone, vibrating through the air and setting your teeth on edge, while a widow's goat vanishes into a neighbour's pot, its absence a quiet theft that echoes in the empty pens. Your heart aches with that initial irony, a hollow throb. How did the world you loved, where oaths were sacred and justice flowed like clear spring water, devolve into this trash TV spectacle of greed and grudges? It's absurd, really. The gods up on Olympus watch it all unfold, withdrawing one by one like disinterested landlords packing up during a tenant riot, leaving you, the underdog guardian of fairness, to plead with empty hands. Historians pore over this allegory's bones. Some argue Virgo's retreat mirrors the Roman Republic's slide into empire, infused with Egyptian influences like the goddess Isis's scales of truth, debating whether Astrea was a purely Hellenistic symbol of lost virtue or a borrowed motif from Nile Valley justice myths that travelled via trade winds. The discomfort deepens as the Iron Age clamps down fully, turning every corner of daily life into a battlefield of small betrayals. You're out on the threshing floors now, the wooden sledges dragged in circles by oxen, their harness leather creaking and sweat damp against your palms as you help separate grain from husk, the chaff flying up in pale clouds that stick to your sweat-slick skin, dry and papery like old parchment, irritating every pore. The air is alive with the crackle of husks underfoot, brittle and snapping, mixed with a faint metallic undercurrent of blood from a recent scuffle over the last scoop, where two farmers came to blows over a boundary line, their fists leaving bruises that bloom purple and tender. You stand there, the wheat's golden, sheaves soft and promising in your arms, but the scene twists, your gut guests turned away at doorways with curt words and empty cups, tables scarred with knife marks from fights over cheese rinds, the wood splintered and rough under your fingertips as you trace the damage. Oaths are sworn casually now, voices flat and insincere, like the casual lies in a Depression-era soup kitchen where neighbors eyed each other with suspicion. Underdogs all fighting for scraps while the system gods or bankers laughed from above. That inner irony coils tighter, a sarcastic laugh bubbling up unbidden you, Astria, with your clean hands and unerring eye, begging men to sheath their knives, to let children wait their turn at the well without pushing. The cool stone rim smooth and reassuring under your touch as water splashes faintly. Sometimes it works. The blade slides back into its sheath with a soft click. The child steps aside with teary eyes that tug at your heart, but more often, the knife rises anyway. The child shoves, sending ripples across the trough. The water's chill mocking your efforts. Days blur into a haze of futile interventions, the discomfort evolving into a weary ache in your bones, like carrying an invisible weight that presses down with every step. You're walking the roads between towns now, sleeping under vines whose leaves rustle soft and cool against your cheek at night, the earthy scent of soil rising damp after rain, grounding you in the world's fading beauty. But the markets edge you out, sellers laughing off your quiet pleas, adding just one less fig to the plate. The fruit's fuzzy skin deceptively soft in your hand as you weigh it against the injustice. The texture of the world changes, fields ploughed in the dark, one row too far, the soil clumpy and unyielding under the plough blade, leaving disputes that fester like open sores. A small theft, a boy's pilfered olives ruins lives if punished harshly, encourages gangs if ignored, and you're there, voice steady but ignored, the sun beating down hot and unrelenting on your back, sweat tracing salty paths down your spine. The irony peaks in those moments, a bitter twist in your throat justice, your very essence, reduced to whispers over shoulders, as if you're just another pillar in the marketplace, stone cold and voiceless. Absurd tidbit to chew on amid the mess in some versions. You're linked to Dyke, the goddess of moral order, but the real sarcasm, the last immortal to walk among mortals, quits not in a blaze of glory, but a quiet exit, clutching a single ear of wheat like a talisman against the chaos ancient feminism betrayed by the very pantheon that birthed you, where female deities get the short end, much like MLK and his civil rights crew in the 60s, underdogs preaching nonviolence in a twisted America of lynchings and lost dreams, their calls for justice echoing into the void yet sparking reflection on enduring hope. You know it's time when the sound of betrayal fills every corner, even in homes where bread was blessed for generations. Names spat in anger like curses. The air grows flat, faces set in unyielding lines that don't soften for your gaze, and the birds lose their song, scattering without following your path. That recurring scar forms now, a lone ear of wheat held to your breast like a fragile infant in a rough crowd. Its husk papery and golden, a texture of fragile promise amid the decline. You choose the dirt road under plane trees, their bark rough and furrowed like worried brows, leaves whispering overhead in a wind that carries the faint, acrid bite of distant smoke from unchecked fields. No rush, just a steady leaving crossing bridges where the river gleams like hammered bronze at evening, its surface cool and rippling under your hand as you pause one last time. In the barley fields, you turn, watching gleaners pick corners in silence, their bent backs a visual ache, the stalks whispering dryly in the breeze. The sky opens without ceremony, a place forming to hold you, the ear shining like a coal in a fading fire. Speak of the star that swears to the goodness that once was. Down below, the void fills with voices, magistrates with longer contracts, judges with extra benches, but you, Astria, withdraw as the underdog who saw too much, the scar of justice's retreat etched eternal. Historians still unpack this one's weight, was Virgo's allegory, a lament for the Roman Republic's fall, with Egyptian threads like Mahat's feather of truth, woven in via Ptolemaic influences, or a standalone Greek cry against hubris. Either way, as you rise, the constellation reclines along the ecliptic, watchful with her wheat across her lap, leaning toward the planet's path. Feel the irony fade into reflection now, that discomfort from the chaff's grit softening like the ear's gentle husk against your palm. Empathy for the forsaken underdog blooming into a calm hope. The threshing floor's echoes quiet, the market's shouts distant hums, as Virgo's stars extend in the harvest warmth, her calm prized in judges and farmers alike. Let that lone grain's light steady you, the shadows of decline giving way to a soothing whisper, drawing you onward to Libra's mocking balance, where the wheel turns with a sharper edge. Where the wheel turns with a sharper edge into Libra's mocking balance. That soothing whisper from Virgo's retreat lingers like the faint grit of chaff still dusting your palms, a textured reminder of lost fairness that now sharpens into the cold precision of scales and judgments, pulling you from the field's decay toward the halls where order hangs by a thread literally. You're a magistrate in ancient Greece now, an underdog arbiter in the dusty courtyards of a city like Athens or Corinth, where the air carries the oily, nutty aroma of olive presses in the distance, mingled with the sharper, almost metallic tang of heated bronze from nearby forges, a scent that clings to your robes like an accusation waiting to be weighed. The ground under your feet is packed earth mixed with scattered pebbles, uneven and unyielding, jarring your heels as you stride toward the tribunal, the weight of your toga-coarse wool heavy with the day's heat dragging at your shoulders, a constant chafing burden that mirrors the irony starting to twist in your mind. Justice, that noble ideal, feels rigged from the jump here, born from the stars that were once just the scorpion's claws, a sarcastic hand-me-down from the Babylonians who called it Zib, Bay, and Neha, the balance of heaven. But the Romans later hacked it off into its own constellation like some bureaucratic carve-out. Historians bicker over it endlessly. Was this separation a Roman innovation to symbolize their obsession with law and order, pulling from Babylonian astral scales that weighed the fates? Or did the Greeks already see the claws as a separate tool for cosmic equity, infused with those ancient Mesopotamian vibes via trade routes? Either way, the discomfort simmers low in your belly, that initial prick of irony you're doling out fairness in a world where the very symbol of balance dangles from a beast's grasp, much like the scandals rocking the U.S. Supreme Court these days, where justices play God with interpretations, underdogs like everyday litigants left hanging by threads of precedent that feel more like nooses. Step into the tribunal now, the discomfort building like a storm gathering over the marketplace. The wooden benches worn smooth from countless elbows and fists, their surface cool and splintery under your fingers as you settle in under the awning. The air thickens with the midday heat, sweat beading on your brow and trickling down in salty rivulets that sting your eyes, while the faint, acrid whiff of unwashed crowds, body odour mixed with the yeasty tang of bread from nearby stalls wafts in on the breeze, turning the space into a pressure cooker of human flaws. Your scales hang from the central beam, lopsided at first glance, the brass pans dangling precariously, their edges dulled from use, cool and slightly greasy to the touch as you adjust them with a practiced hand. The beam creaks under the weight, a low, rasping groan that scrapes against your ears like nails on slate, vibrating through the air as you load the first case of dispute over grain measures. The accused merchants sack spilling kernels that scatter across the floor, dry and rattling like tiny bones, their dusty husks sticking to your sandals in a gritty film. Litigants crowd close, their voices a cacophony of pleas and accusations, hot breaths carrying the sour edge of desperation, pressing in until the space feels claustrophobic, the walls of the open-air court closing like a vice. That inner irony coils tighter, a sarcastic chuckle caught in your throat. You're the underdog enforcer of balance in a system where the scales themselves faint stars in the sky. Hard to spot without knowing where to look, mock the very idea of equity. Pausing the sun at equinox like some cosmic bureaucrat filing paperwork, an absurd tidbit that the heavens themselves weigh the year only to tip it right back into chaos. The cases pile up, each one a fresh layer of discomfort, the beams creak, growing more insistent with every load grain dusted with dirt clumping in the pans. The kernels' rough, irregular texture grinding under your fingers as you portion them out, the faint, musty smell of stored harvest turning stale in the heat. A farmer claims short wait from a cellar, the olive oil jars beside him slick and cool to the touch, their clay surfaces beaded with condensation that drips sticky onto the bench, leaving oily smears that catch the light in mocking gleams. You lift the beam, its pivot point worn smooth from years of teetering judgments, and watch it dip and rise, the metal arms groaning like weary bones, the pans swaying with a faint jingle that echoes your growing unease. Voices clash louder now, accusations flying like sparks from a forge, the air humming with tension, sweat and frustration blending into a humid fog that clings to your skin like a second, suffocating layer. One case bleeds into the next, a boundary dispute where neighbours produce boundary stones, their surfaces etched and mossy, cool and damp under your probing touch. But the lines blur in heated testimony. The irony hitting you like a slap fairness demands precision, yet human greed warps it every time. Scales from a scorpion's claws turned into symbols of justice, as if arming the law with venom makes it bite harder. Sarcasm bubbles up inside, that discomfort evolving into a wry reflection in colonial America. Rigged elections saw underdogs like frontier voters manipulated by elite balances of power, much like your tribunal, where the beam level's not truths, but whatever the loudest voice tips it toward. As the sun climbs to its zenith, the equinox pause looms in your thoughts, that cosmic moment when day and night hang equal, the light filtering through the awning in balanced shafts that cast long shadows like lances on the ground. The beam mimics it now, steadying under a careful load of coins and loaves, the metal clinking softly against the pans, their brassy edges cool and unyielding as you nudge them true. But the irony sharpens the discomfort further. This balance is fleeting. A pause before the tilt, the sun's path crossing the ecliptic like a blade hovering over a neck, ready to slice the year in two. Litigants watch breathlessly, the air electric with anticipation, the faint creak of the beam the only sound as it hovers then levels, deciding fates with mechanical indifference. A thief's hand on the scales, subtle as a shadow, tips it just enough. You catch it, the texture of his sweaty palm against the brass slick and telling, but the crowd's murmurs rise like a wave, sour with doubt and resentment. Absurd, isn't it? The stars of Libra, once the scorpion's front claws in Babylonian skies, Zib, Bo, and nay, the heavenly balance get carved out by Romans into a standalone symbol of law, a tidbit that chafes like ill-fitting armour. What was a predator's grip becomes the tool of equity, debating whether this Roman tweak was pure innovation for their legal empire, or a nod to those ancient Mesopotamian weight scales that measured souls and stars alike. Modern scandals echo the sarcasm. To you. Supreme Court rulings twisted by hidden influences. Underdogs like everyday citizens left dangling from balanced decisions that reek of favoritism. That irony turning discomfort into a reflective chill as you ponder the farce. The day drags on, cases stacking like unbalanced loads. The beams groan, a constant companion, rasping against your nerves as the pans sway with grain dusted in deceit, the kernel's dusty husks flaking off in your hands, dry and insidious. Oil from a disputed amphora spills, slick and viscous, pooling on the bench with a glossy sheen that catches the fading light, its pungent, fruity aroma overwhelming the court's stale air. Voices crack with emotion, a widow's plea for her dowry, the parchment contract crinkling under your fingers, brittle and yellowed like old skin while the accused sneers, his beard coarse and unkempt brushing the table. The irony peaks in these moments, that discomfort a full-throated laugh from the gods you're wielding justice from a scorpion's remnants, the scales' faint stars mocking from above, a constellation sparse and patient, rewarding those who look close enough to see the beam's eternal level as a scar of twisted fairness. As the sun dips toward equality, its rays slanting golden through the haze, the beam holds steady one last time, the pans even, deciding a debt with a final, resonant clink that vibrates through your core. Empathy stirs now for the underdogs before you, the farmers, widows, thieves all hanging on this fragile balance. The recurring scar of the scales etched in the sky like a bureaucratic wound that never heals. Historians keep the debate alive that Roman split of Libra from Scorpius, pulling the claws into a justice symbol, might have been inspired by Babylonian astral balances for divine judgments, or a fresh Latin flair to fit their courtroom dramas either way. It's the ultimate sarcastic pivot from venom to verdict. Feel the irony unwind into reflection, that discomfort from the beam's creak fading like the sun's pause, the olive-scented breeze cooling your skin as the scale stars lift at evening. Two quiet points holding still in the wind. Let that chill empathy settle. the tribunals clamour a distant hum, drawing you from this mocking equilibrium towards Scorpio's venomous retribution, where the sting awaits with sharper intent. That mocking equilibrium from Libra's scales tips precariously now, like a beam overloaded with one too many false weights, sending you tumbling from the courtroom's dusty haze into the blistering expanse of Scorpio's venomous retribution, a tale where underdog pride meets its match in the Earth's quiet fury, carving a scar that's as eternal as it is humiliating. You're Orion now, the towering hunter giant striding across the sun-scorched plains of ancient Greece, your massive frame cutting through the landscape like a force of nature, bow slung over your shoulder with the familiar, worn leather strap digging into your skin, its texture rough and sweat-stained from endless pursuits. The air shimmers with heat, carrying the dry, baked earth smell of cracked soil and sparse vegetation, thorny bushes that snag at your legs with prickly barbs, leaving faint red trails that itch under the relentless sun. You've got the world at your feet, or so you boast, a giant born of sea and earth, companion to gods and kings, your strides covering leagues in a single bound, the ground rumbling faintly beneath your heavy boots, packed dirt giving way to dust that puffs up in gritty clouds, coating your tongue with a fine, chalky film. But that initial discomfort stirs low in your gut, a nagging twist of irony, all this power, this underdog rise from humble origins, your dad Poseidon, giving you the gift of striding seas as if they were fields, and yet, here you are, chasing beasts across flatlands that stretch endless under a sky that watches with indifferent stars. It's like those American tycoons in the lead up to the 1929 crash, building empires on swagger and speculation. Underdogs turned kings until hubris bites back, leaving them to reflect on the fall from penthouse to poorhouse. The plains unfold before you at noon, the sun a merciless hammer pounding down, baking the earth until it radiates heat that seeps through your souls, making each step a test of endurance, the leather of your boots creaking softly with the strain. You're in full boast mode now, voice booming across the empty expanse as you declare you'll slay every wild beast on the planet, no exceptions. No mercy, your words hanging in the hot air like a challenge to the gods themselves. The irony creeps in sharper, that discomfort like a splinter under your nail. Who are you to tempt fate like this? A hunter underdog who's wrestled monsters and wooed goddesses, yet blind to the hubris echoing in your own roars. The land is flat and unforgiving, golden grasses whispering dryly in the faint breeze, their blades brittle and slicing against your calves like tiny knives, drawing thin beads of sweat that trickle down, salty and stinging in the cuts. You stride on, bow humming with tension in your grip, the string taut and fibrous under your fingers, arrow nocked and ready, the fletching feathers soft and tickling your palm. Companions or not Artemis in some tales, a mere errand from a king. In others you feel invincible, the scent of adventure sharp in your nostrils, a mix of wild herbs crushed underfoot, and the distant, earthy promise of prey. But deep down, that knot tightens. The world's beasts are sacred in their way, guardians of the wild, and your boast rings hollow, a sarcastic echo of pride that's about to get punctured. Deeper into the flat country you go, the sun climbing higher, turning the horizon into a wavy mirage that dances mockingly, the heat waves distorting the air like a fever dream. Your muscles ache from the pace, but you push on, the ground's texture shifting to harder clay, cracked and fissured like parched lips, crumbling under your weight with a faint, gritty crunch that grinds between your toes. The irony swells now, that discomfort flaring into an uneasy laugh. You swallow back you've laid hands on the untouchable before perhaps assaulting a maiden or two. Versions vary, but this boast against all beasts feels like tempting the earth itself. Gaia, the mother of monsters, who's been nursing grudges since the Titans. Historians dig into this myth's tangled roots. Orion and the Scorpion might trace back to Mesopotamian hunter epics, where star figures battle chaos beasts under Babylonian skies, blended with Egyptian influences like the Scorpion goddess Serket, who guarded the underworld, debating if the chase was a Greek mashup of those ancient Near Eastern tales of cosmic hunts, or a fresh allegory for mortal overreach. Either way, the plains stretch on, empty, save for the occasional lizard skittering away, its scales glinting in the light, a fleeting reminder of the wild's quiet defiance. And then, From a shadow cast by nothing but a sun-baked rock, it comes the scorpion, small against your giant frame but loaded with purpose, emerging from the ground like Gaia's own retort. Sarcasm from the cosmos. Right, this lowly creature, with its armoured shell gleaming dull and chitinous, legs splayed in deliberate calm, carries its stinger high like a loaded question you never saw coming. The air shifts subtly, a faint, dry rustle as it moves sideways, the texture of the earth undisturbed yet charged with menace. You don't notice at first, too busy striding forward, your boast still fresh on your lips, the wind carrying your words away into the heat haze. But the arc comes quick, a sudden, precise strike from behind, the stinger puncturing like an accident that feels anything but, the point slipping through your heel with a sharp, burning prick that blooms into fire under your skin. The discomfort explodes now. A horror of venom surging like liquid flame up your leg. The texture of the wound swelling hot and throbbing, skin tightening around the entry like overinflated leather, pulsing with each heartbeat. You whirl around, stamping futilely at the retreating form, your boots slamming into the dry ground with a thud that jars your bones, dust exploding in a gritty cloud that coats your face, the fine particles gritty on your lips as you gasp, the scorpion vanishing into a crack like a whispered curse. That inner irony crashes over you like a wave in the desert heat, discomfort turning to panic as the poison spreads, a searing trail snaking through your veins, muscles seizing with cramps that feel like ropes twisting inside, the texture of your own flesh betraying you from within. You stagger, the plains blurring in your vision, the sun's glare now a mocking blaze that intensifies the burn, sweat pouring in rivulets that sting the wound like salt in an open cut. The smell of your own fear rises, acrid and sharp, mingling with the baked earth to create a nauseating fog that chokes you, each breath ragged and laboured as you clutch at your leg, the skin around the puncture hot and inflamed, raised like a welt that's alive and angry. Versions differ, Gaia sending the scorpion for your threat to all beasts, or Artemis avenging a slight. Apollo tricking her into the shot, but the end is the same. You flee toward the sea, wading in until the waves close over your head, cool and enveloping at first, the water's silky texture soothing the fire momentarily, but the venom's grip unrelenting, pulling you under like an anchor. The currents tug at your clothes, heavy and sodden, the salt water filling your mouth with its briny bite. A final, ironic gulp as the world fades to blue-black. Up in the stars, Zeus fixes you there, belt of 3 lights drawing the eye, sword hanging low, dogs at your heels but opposite the scorpion, one rising as the other flees, an eternal chase that's the ultimate absurd tidbit your boast, to end all beasts immortalized as a perpetual foot race in the sky. The hunter forever pursued by the pest he underestimated, chafing like a bad joke that never lands. Modern parallels bite with the same sarcastic edge, those Wall Street tycoons pre-1929 underdogs risen to fat cats boasting untouchable empires, only to crash in the stock market rout, their hubris a venom that spread through the economy, leaving reflections on humility amid the ruins of the Great Depression. Historians keep the fire alive. The Orion-Scorpio duo likely stems from Mesopotamian myths of heroic hunters battling stellar scorpions, laced with Egyptian scorpion deities like Selket, who warded off poison questioning if the Greeks borrowed this cosmic duel wholesale from those cradle of civilization tales, or spun it fresh to warn against overreach. That recurring scar of the stinger's prick etches deep, and tear is burning red at the scorpion's heart like an open wound on the heavens, a fiery reminder of pride's fall. Feel the irony unwind from that searing discomfort now, the plain's dry grit fading from your senses as the venom's burn cools into a reflective hum. Empathy for the boastful underdog you are blooming like a scar that's finally healed. The hunter's outline stands tall in winter skies, club raised into darkness that needs no weapon, but the scorpion's tail bends tight across the ecliptic, its red heart a steady coal that shepherds point out to suns under summer nights. Let that humility's chill wrap around you, the stamp's futile echo quieting, drawing you from this venomous payback towards Sagittarius's guarded aim, where the bow draws taut with new intent. That humility's chill from Scorpio's sting starts to thaw into a watchful vigilance. like the first cool breath of evening easing the desert's burn, guiding you from the plain's venomous haze toward the rugged slopes of Sagittarius, the guarded archer, whose aim holds the line between chaos and creation, an underdog sentinel in the wilds where preparation meets its ironic test. Now, you're Crotus, the overlooked guardian of Mount Helicon, raised by the nymph Euphrosyne, nurse to the muses themselves, your life a quiet grind of vigilance amid the sacred groves that hum with the goddesses' songs. The air up here on the mountain carries the crisp, resinous bite of pine and wild thyme, crushed under your hooves' weight. Hooves? Yeah, that's the twisted bit you're half man, half beast. A satyr-like figure with shaggy legs and a horse's lower body, sprinting through the underbrush like some divine Uber driver for the artsy crowd. The ground slopes steeply, loose gravel and rocky outcrops crunching under your cloven feet, the texture sharp and unforgiving, jabbing into the tough pads like persistent reminders of your underdog status. You're no glorified hero, just the guy keeping the peace while the muses weave their hymns, bow ever ready across your back, its yew-wood smooth and curved from constant handling, the string humming faintly against your palm like a taut nerve. That initial discomfort stirs in your chest, a low thrum of irony born to protect beauty and inspiration, yet stuck as the hybrid freak show sidekick, speed married to judgment in a body that screams misfit. It's like those frontier scouts in 19th century America, underdogs riding the wild edges of the West, chauffeuring settlers through chaotic trails, while the bigwigs back east claim the glory-resilient guardians, whose quiet prep work kept the peace, only to get footnotes in history books. Dawn breaks over Helicon's slopes, the light filtering through a canopy of ancient oaks and pines, their branches swaying with a soft, whispering rustle that carries the fresh, loamy scent of dew-kissed earth, grounding you in the mountain's timeless rhythm. You're patrolling the edges, the bow's weight a familiar anchor on your shoulder, its leather quiver bumping against your hip with each stride, arrows fletched from raven feathers that feel silky and ominous in your grasp. The muses' songs drift from the springs below, ethereal melodies that soothe the soul, but you stay vigilant, ears pricked for the stir in the brush, the faint snap of twigs under intruding paws or hooves. The texture of the forest floor shifts as you move pine needles soft and spongy in places, giving way to harder packed dirt studded with thyme bushes, their leaves releasing a pungent, herbal aroma when crushed underfoot. Sharp and invigorating, yet laced with the wild's underlying danger. Deep down, that irony tugs at you. A sarcastic undercurrent, you're the protector of harmony. Yet your very form human torso fused to equine legs makes you a living punchline. Half-horse Uber for the divine divas, racing to fend off beasts that threaten their riddle. The discomfort builds subtly, like an itch you can't quite scratch. As you recall your upbringing, Euphrosyne teaching you woodcraft with the quickness of a kid who fears the weather's wrath. Your hands learning the bow's draw young, the string's fibrous bite against your fingers a rite of passage. Absurd tidbit to mull over in the quiet you didn't just guard. You invented applause hands clapping sharply to mimic the muse's rhythms, turning praise into a physical echo, a sarcastic gift from an underdog whose life was all about silent watchfulness, like turning a century's boredom into a concert hall ovation from the depth of obscurity. The slopes of Helicon loom you am in the midday light, winds howling through the passes with a low, eerie moan that whips at your hair and mane, carrying the distant rumble of thunder from gathering clouds, the air turning electric and heavy with ozone's sharp tang. You're drawn to the tree line now, where the forest thickens, bark of ancient trunks rough and furrowed under your probing touch, like the wrinkled hide of some elder beast, flaking in dry curls that dust your palms with earthy grit. The muses gather at the spring below, their voices rising in harmonious waves that float up to you, sweet and melodic, a balm against the wild's encroaching threats, wolves slinking from the shadows, or rogue satyrs crashing the party with crude advances. Your bow comes alive in your hands, the wood warm from the sun, its curve fitting your grip like an old friend, the string taut and vibrating as you nock an arrow, the feather's soft barb tickling your cheek. That inner irony sharpens the discomfort. A wry twist in your gut, you're the speed demon guardian, legs pounding the slope with powerful rhythmic thuds that echo off the rocks. Yet it's all for the ethereal crew who barely notice your hybrid hustle, treating you like the help in their artistic utopia. The texture of the undergrowth snags at your flanks thorny vines with barbed hooks that tear shallow gashes, drawing thin lines of blood that well warm and sticky, the metallic scent mixing with the time's herbal punch to create a heady, adrenaline-fueled fog. You loose the first arrow, the twang slicing the air like a whip crack, and gouge your ears with its high-pitched keen, the shaft whistling through leaves that rustle in protest, embedding in a beast's flank with a dull thunk, feathers quivering in the aftermath. Deeper into the patrol you go, the wind's howl intensifying, gusts buffeting your body like invisible hands, the coarse fur of your lower half matted with sweat and debris, a sticky, uncomfortable layer that chafes with every bound. The slopes grow steeper, rocks jutting like teeth from the earth, their surfaces lichen-covered and slick under your hooves, forcing careful footing amid the chaos. A pack of wild dogs circles the spring's edge, their growls low and guttural, fur bristling in the dim light filtering through the canopy, eyes gleaming with feral hunger. You draw the bow under the emerging stars, twilight's first pinpricks winking like distant threats, the string's tension pulling at your back muscles, fibrous and straining, the wood creaking softly in harmony with the wind's wail. The irony bubbles up now, that discomfort like a thorn lodged deep. You're the underdog enabler of art, your arrows singing through the air to protect songs that outlast you. Yet your reward is a starry form forever drawn, half man, half horse, a perpetual setup for the punchline. Historians hash this hybrid's origins the centaur archer might draw from Scythian horse, nomad cultures in the steppes, where mounted warriors blended with Babylonian astral horse figures like the divine steeds of the sun god, debating if Sagittarius was a Greek fusion of those equestrian myths or a standalone symbol of vigilant speed guarding the muse's realm. The shot flies true, the arrows fletching a blur against the darkening sky, thwacking into the lead dog's shoulder with a wet impact that scatters the pack, their yips fading into the underbrush like defeated echoes. But the absurdity lands hard in the aftermath amid the muse's grateful hymns. You strike your hands together sharply, clap the air snapping back in mimicry of their rhythms, inventing applause as a way to praise without words, a sarcastic underdog gift born from Baikish of constant guard duty, turning silence into thunderous approval like a concert encore pulled from the jaws of obscurity. The texture of your palm stings from the impact, red and tingling, the sound reverberating off the slopes in a way that feels both triumphant and ridiculous, the wind carrying it away into the night. Modern scouts on the American frontier echo the sarcasm those lone riders in the 1800s Wild West, underdogs prepping trails for wagon trains, their vigilant aim keeping chaos at bay while the pioneers sang ballads that barely mentioned them. Resilience forged in isolation leading to that empathetic reflection on unseen guardians. That recurring scar of the bow, drawn etches eternal. The strings pull a VinQ tension in your shoulders as you stand watch under the Lapland stars, the slope's wind howling like a distant threat. The muses invite you closer in the firelight, flames crackling with a warm, smoky glow that pushes back the chill, the scent of burning olive wood rich and comforting, embers popping softly against your skin. But you stay at the edge, bow at rest yet ready. The yew's curve a constant companion, its surface now cool in the evening air. The irony softens the discomfort into a reflective warmth, empathy for your hybrid hustle, blooming like the time underfoot, crushed but aromatic, resilient in its way. Historians keep the debate rolling, Sagittarius's centaur roots likely tied to Scythian horse archer nomads whose steppe cultures influenced Greek tales via Black Sea trade, perhaps echoing Babylonian divine horses that pulled celestial chariots, questioning if the archer was a borrowed emblem of nomadic vigilance or a Greek tweak to fit Helicon's mythic guardians. Feel that guardian's chill empathy now, the bow's taut hum quieting into a lull, the slope's UAM wins a soothing hush, drawing you from this prepared aim toward Capricorn's desperate shift, where transformation waits in the river's grasp. Where transformation waits in the river's grasp. That prepared aim from Sagittarius's bow loosens just enough to let the winds of Helicon fade, replaced by the frantic rush of a world unraveling at the seams, drawing you from the mountain's vigilant slopes into Capricorn's desperate shift, a frantic underdog scramble, where even the gods hit the panic button, reshaping themselves in the face of cosmic catastrophe. Now, your Pan, the rustic goat god of Arcadia's wild hills, hooves pounding the earth in terror as Typhon erupts from the depths like a volcano with legs, 100 dragon heads spewing flames and fury that shake the very foundations of Olympus. The air turns acrid with sulphur and scorched earth, a choking haze that burns your lungs with every ragged breath, the ground trembling under your cloven feet, jagged rocks and uprooted soil flying up in gritty sprays that pelt your flanks like hail, the texture rough and stinging against your shaggy fur. You're no mighty warrior, just the underdog piper of the fields, your pipes dangling useless from your belt, the reeds smooth, hollow tubes clacking against your thigh as you flee, heart hammering with that initial surge of discomfort. The irony hits like a slap from the fates you. Pan, lord of laughter and lusty dances in green groves, reduced to a scrambling satyr in a makeover emergency, orchestrated by none other than Typhon, the monster-in-law from hell, Zeus's worst nightmare, born to Gaia as revenge for the Titan's fall. It's like those 1930s flood survivors in America's heartland. Underdogs, wading through Mississippi deluges, transforming their lives on the fly with makeshift rafts and grit, only to reflect on the twisted rescue that left scars deeper than the waters. The chaos erupts without warning, the earth groaning like a beast in labor as Typhon climbs the skyline, his serpentine hair writhing like a forest of vipers, voice shattering stone with roars that vibrate through your bones, a deep resonant thunder that rattles your teeth and sets your horns quivering. The hills of Arcadia, once your playground of merry chases and flute tunes, now heave and crack, fissures snaking across the paths like veins bursting open, the soil's loamy scent turning foul with upturned roots and sulphurous fumes that sting your eyes and coat your tongue with a bitter, ashy film. Gods scatter in panic, Zeus hurling thunderbolts that crackle and boom overhead, illuminating the sky in jagged white flashes. But even he loses ground, tendons ripped from his limbs by Typhon's claws. The air filling with the ozone tang of lightning strikes mingled with the metallic reek of divine blood. You're at the river's edge now, the water rushing wild and frothy, its surface churning with debris twigs and leaves swirling in eddies that tug at your legs like insistent hands. The current's chill biting through your fur with a shocking cold that numbs your skin. That inner irony coils tight in your chest, a sarcastic twist amid the fear you, the carefree goat god who rang laughter from these hills, now plunging into survival mode, the river's edge a chaotic froth of waves crashing against banks, spray misting your face in salty, fishy bursts that cling sticky to your beard. The discomfort surges as Typhon's breath, hot and fetid, like rotten eggs and brimstone, presses at your back, a monstrous gale that whips your tunic and flattens the reeds, their hollow stems snapping brittle under the force. No time for pipes or pranks. You leap forward, the water closing over your calves and hips with a shocking embrace, icy and relentless, the texture silky yet abrasive with hidden pebbles that scrape your legs like submerged teeth. The roar of the river drowns Typhon's distant bellows, a roaring white noise that vibrates in your ears, but the ground behind still shakes, sending tremors through the current that jolt your body like electric shocks. In that plunge, the transformation hits an emergency shift born of pure desperation, your body learning the river's craft mid-leap. From the waist up, you keep the goat-strength-horned head, shaggy neck, chest built for a wild shout that echoes off the waves. But below, legs fuse and soften into a scaled tail, the change rippling like a shiver through your flesh, skin tightening and cracking with a painful stretch, the texture emerging cool and slippery, like donning a suit of living armor that's both empowering and alien. The water envelops you fully now, the chill seeping into your new form, scales hardening with a faint, leathery rasp against the current, propelling you forward with a fish's undulating grace that feels instinctive yet profoundly wrong. That discomfort peaks in a wave of ironic horror. You Pan the earthbound reveler, remade into a sea-goat hybrid for survival's sake, the tail's fins flexing with powerful sweeps that slice the water, but the lingering ache of the shift throbs like fresh bruises, a sarcastic upgrade from the god's playbook. Absurd tidbit amid the frenzy, this makeover isn't just random, it's the birth of the Capricorn form, a kid goat saving the day by swimming what land dwellers can't, like an underdog lifeguard turning into the very fish he saves, chafing at the exploitation. where your quick thinking gets you a starry wedge, but no thanks from the thunder hurler upstairs. Deeper into the river you glide, the water's depth muffling the world's chaos, bubbles rising around your head in cool, effervescent bursts that tickle your nostrils, the murky flow carrying the faint, mineral tang of riverbed silt that coats your mouth when you surface for air. Typhon's roars fade to echoes, but the fear lingers. Your new tail's scales iridescent and tough, textured like polished armor, propelling you with efficient twists that part the current. The sensation foreign and exhilarating, yet laced with that ironic discomfort speed in water. Yes, but at the cost of your earthy roots, hooves traded for fins in a blink. You reach the shallows on the other side, hauling yourself onto mud banks that squelch soft and yielding under your tail's weight, the slime cool and viscous against your scales, leaving a gritty residue that dries flaky in the wind. Meanwhile, the god's flight continues, swans beating wings over reeds, ibises lifting bills from the muck, but you, the underdog goatfish, press on through the reeds and shores with a thief's quiet, the water dripping from your form in cold rivulets that chill your skin, the texture slick and shivering as you shake it off. Hermes joins the fray, his trickster wit a sly counter to Typhon's brute force, and together you sneak into the cave on Sicily's shores where Zeus's stolen tendons are hidden, guarded by serpents whose scales glint in the dim light, hissing with a venomous sizzle that raises the hairs on your neck. The cave's interior reeks of salt and serpents briny and reptilian, a slimy musk that clings to the walls like damp rot, the air thick and oppressive as you slither in, your tail's scales scraping against stone with a faint, grinding whisper. The packet of tendons lies wrapped in shadow, the guards' heads rearing with forked tongues flicking the air, tasting your fear. Quick as a kingfisher's dive, you and Hermes snatch at the texture leathery and warm, like bundled sinew pulsing faintly, and bolt out into daylight, the sun's glare blinding after the gloom. Zeus refits them with a roar of relief, rising to hurl lightning that scatters Typhon toward Etna, the sky cracking with thunder that rolls through your bones like an aftershock. The irony floods back then, that discomfort, a wry, exhausted smile. You were the kid goat in Sea Drag, saved the king of gods with your hybrid hustle, an exploited underdog whose emergency makeover gets a nod but no throne. The scar of transformation etched as Capricorn's faint wedge in the winter stars. Historians unravel this one's threads. The sea goat form likely borrows from Babylonian Suher-Masu, the goatfish Apkallu sages of wisdom who bridged land and water, transmitted through Egyptian hybrids like the Nile's sacred beasts, debating if Pan's shift was a Greek remix of those Mesopotamian motifs, or a fresh myth to explain the constellation's odd shape. Modern floods in the 1930s Mississippi Valley hit the same sarcastic note underdog families transforming homes into boats overnight, surviving the deluge with makeshift resilience, only to reflect on the twisted rescue that left communities scarred but enduring. The waters chill a memory that chills the soul long after. As the dust settles, your body reverts, or does it? The tail's scaled texture fades, but the feel lingers, a slick reminder on your skin as you shake off the river's brine. The air now fresh with post-storm petrichor, earthy and cleansing. Empathy swells for the underdog shifter you are, the wrong of Typhon a distant rumble, that recurring scar of the scaled tail Vincu in the star's low wedge, faint like a river ghost. Let the irony's discomfort ease into reflective endurance, the river's grasp loosening like a dream's fade, the winds of Arcadia calling you back as Capricorn rises, its points grazing the horizon like hesitant horns. Breathe through the chill, the transformation's ache softening into a steady hum, drawing you from this desperate swim toward Aquarius's eternal pour, where the vessel tips with reluctant grace. Where the vessel tips with reluctant grace, that desperate swim's lingering chill from Capricorn starts to evaporate like morning mist over the hills, leaving behind a faint, briny echo that now mingles with the fresh, pastoral breezes of youth's innocence, easing you from the river's turbulent grasp into Aquarius's eternal pour, a poignant underdog ascent where a simple shepherd boy gets yanked from the fields into divine servitude, his life forever tilted like an unending jug of nectar. You're Ganymede now, the Trojan prince's son tending flocks on the gentle slopes of Mount Ida. Your days a rhythm of quiet underdog toil under a sky that seems endlessly blue and promising. The air light with the sweet grassy scent of sun-warmed meadows and the faint woolly musk of your charges milling about. The ground under your bare feet is soft and springy, a carpet of clover and wildflowers that cushions each step with dewy freshness. Petals brushing your ankles like gentle whispers. While your staff cut fresh from young ash, that morning feels light and smooth in your grip, its bark still faintly rough, a trusted extension of your young strength. Life here feels straightforward, the dogs loping at your heels with loyal barks that echo off the ridges, their fur soft and warm when you ruffle it in passing. But that initial discomfort flickers at the edges of your mind. A subtle irony, you're just a farm boy, beautiful enough to turn heads in the village, but oblivious to the gods' gaze. Much like those rags to riches stories in America, where a kid from the heartland claws up to corporate heights, only to get trapped in the glass ceiling of office politics. Underdogs dreaming big until the trap snaps shut. The scent of thyme and blooming laurel wafts up from the valleys, herbal and invigorating, grounding you in the moment as you squint into the sun, the light folding the horizon in a golden haze that promises nothing but more of the same peaceful routine. But the gods have other plans, and Zeus, that thunderous playboy of Olympus, spots you from his lofty perch, his desire igniting like a storm on the horizon, turning your underdog idyll into a cosmic kidnapping. Sarcasm drips from the divine scheme here. The king of the skies, who could command armies with a bolt, opts for subtlety by shape-shifting into an eagle. Massive wings spanning the blue like a shadow of fate. Feathers ruffling in the updraft with a soft, whooshing hush that you barely register at first. The air shifts subtly, a sudden darkening as if a cloud has swallowed the sun, the breeze picking up with an unnatural chill that raises goosebumps on your arms. The texture of your tunic suddenly too thin against the cooling wind. Your dogs sense it first, rearing and barking in confusion, their paws scrabbling on the grass with frantic digs that tear up clods of earth, the loamy smell rising sharp and disturbed. You look up, stuff still in hand, its wood now feeling flimsy and inadequate, and that's when the eagle dives silent as a whisper, talons extending with precise predatory grace, gripping under your arms in a shock of cold, unyielding pressure that squeezes like iron vices, lifting you skyward before you can even cry out. The ground falls away in a rush, fields shrinking to patches, rivers to threads, the wind howling past your ears with a fierce, tearing roar that whips your hair and clothes, the fabric snapping taut against your body like sails in a gale, exposing skin to the roar, biting rush of air that smells faintly of ozone and distant thunder. That inner discomfort surges now, a knot of terror twisting in your stomach as the ascent steals your breath. The eagle's feathers brushing your cheeks soft yet edged with the power of flight, a deceptive gentleness hiding the grip's bruising force. Your staff and sandals tumble into the grass below, lost relics of your simple life. The dog's barks fading to tiny yips as the world pulls away, a patchwork of greens and browns blurring beneath you. The texture of the air changes with height, thinner and colder, nipping at your exposed limbs like invisible teeth, while the sun's warmth fades, leaving a chill that seeps into your bones, making you shiver uncontrollably in the eagle's hold. Inner thoughts race like the ground below. How does a lazy afternoon of herding turn into this nightmare snatch? The gods' favor feeling more like a thief's grab. The irony bites deep, a sarcastic undercurrent amid the fear Zeus, the Almighty, playing bird to abduct a kid for cupbearer duty, his jealousy-fueled wife Hera already stewing like a bitter office rival in some cutthroat corporate trap, where the boss promotes the young intern to elite status, only to chain him to endless shifts. Absurd tidbit in the terror, this isn't just any snatch. Ganymede's myth carries undertones that Romans amped up with homosexual vibes. Zeus's love for the boy, a divine crush that sparks Hera's eternal grudge, a sarcastic twist where beauty's reward is banishment from home. Historians debating if those layers stem from Greek pederasty norms or Egyptian influences like youthful cupbearers in Pharaoh's courts, transmitted via Hellenistic blends. The flight stretches into what feels like eternity, the eagle's wings beating steady and powerful, the rhythmic whoosh vibrating through your body like a drum, the feather's downy edges occasionally grazing your face soft, almost comforting, yet laced with the wild, feathery musk of the bird's exertion. Below, the sea gleams like a metal plate tilted under the sun, waves sparkling in hypnotic patterns that mock your helplessness, the salt-tanged wind growing stronger, whipping tears from your eyes that freeze on your cheeks in the altitude's bite. Your heart pounds wild, a frantic tattoo against your ribs, the discomfort peaking as Olympus looms a mountain of marble and cloud, columns shining pristine as if washed in eternal rain, the air up here crisp and otherworldly, carrying faint hints of resin and crushed mint from divine gardens. A deceptive paradise that twists the knife of irony further. The eagle sets you down in the grand hall, the floor cool marble under your trembling feet, smooth and unyielding like polished stone that echoes your shaky steps, the grip releasing with a final, talon-scraped twinge on your arms. Gods look up from their cups, nectar gleaming golden in goblets that catch the light like liquid sunlight. Zeus, materializing in his full, imposing glory, eyes burning with possessive victory. Hermes materializing with his sly grin, and Hera watching from her throne with a stillness that's pure ice. Her gaze like daggers that pierce your soul. That loss of innocence hits like a wave crashing over you, the discomfort a hollow ache in your chest as you sway on your feet. The hall's grandeur overwhelming the columns' fluted textures cool under your tentative touch, the air humming with immortal chatter that feels alien and excluding. You're handed a basin of laurel-scented water, the liquid warm and fragrant as you wash hands that feel too small for this duty. Then a jug of nectar that shines like the inside of a pearl shell, heavy and cool in your grasp, its handle smooth as river stone. Pouring for the gods, the nectar flows in a steady stream, sweet and heady on the air, but the taste when you sip to steady yourself, cloying honey laced with ambrosia's divine bitterness, coaxes your tongue like an eternal reminder of your stolen youth, the flavour lingering, sticky and unnatural. The irony swells, sarcastic and biting from farm boy herding sheep on Ida's slopes where dogs paced confused under darkening clouds, their fur ruffled by the eagle's shadow to Olympus barista, serving endless cups amid cold divine eyes. Hera's jealousy simmering like toxic office drama, where the new hire gets promoted but trapped in the grind. Modern corporate traps echo the sarcasm those American rags-to-riches tales, like a kid from the Midwest landing a Wall Street gig only to pour coffee for execs in a gilded cage. Underdogs reflecting on the dream that's really a sentence of servitude. Empathy blooming for the innocence lost in the climb. The hall's marble gleams under torchlight, flames dancing with a warm, flickering glow that casts long shadows across the faces Zeus's triumphant smirk, Hermes's amused wink, Hera's unyielding stare, the goblet's rims cool and brassy against your fingers as you refill them, the nectar's viscosity clinging like honeyed chains. Visuals swirl Ida's slope with dogs milling bewildered under blackening clouds, their paws kicking up dust in frantic circles. You pouring amid the gods, eyes wide with cold detachment, the stream arcing graceful yet endless. Aquarius's stars later, the zigzag stream like falling tears etched in the night. That recurring scar of the eagle's grip bruises eternal, a vincuple from the jar that never empties, duty's sarcasm an endless shift from the farm's freedom. Historians unpack the undertones. Ganymede's tale amps up homosexual elements in Roman retellings, perhaps drawing from Greek pederasty blended with Egyptian youth cupbearers in temple rites, debating if the myth's love was a Hellenistic fusion or a Roman spin on those Nile Valley motifs of divine favour for the beautiful young. Feel the sarcasm's discomfort unwind into reflective chill now, the nectar's bittersweet cling fading from your tongue, empathy for your lost innocence a soothing balm that eases the ascent's ache. The vessel tips onward, the hall's minty air a distant hum, drawing you from this eternal service toward Pisces' bound escape, where the cord tightens in the depths, That eternal service's reluctant grace from Aquarius begins to submerge, like nectar spilling into a widening river that now carries the undercurrent of familial desperation, pulling you from Olympus's gilded halls toward Pisces' bound escape, a frantic underdog flight, where bonds become both lifeline and leash, twisted in the chaos of a monster's rampage that tests the very glue of mother and child. Your eros now, the young god of desire clinging to your mother Aphrodite's hip as Typhon bursts forth from the earth like a seismic tantrum gone global. The ground shuddering under your feet with violent heaves that crack the soil into gaping fissures, sending plumes of dust and debris skyward in gritty clouds that sting your eyes and coat your throat with a dry, choking earthiness. The air reeks of upheaval, sulphurous fumes belching from the rifts, mixed with the sharp, metallic tang of uprooted minerals, a scent that clings to your tunic like a bad omen, its fabric suddenly too heavy and abrasive against your skin as you stumble. You're no battle-hardened warrior, just the underdog kid in this divine family drama, quiver slung across your back feeling cumbersome and useless, the leather strap digging into your shoulder with a raw, chafing bite that amplifies the initial discomfort surging through you. The irony creeps in like a shadow over the shoreline you, Eros, born of love and beauty, now fleeing a family vacation from hell, orchestrated by Gaia's grudge against Zeus, where the goddess of desire has to improvise survival with her son in tow, much like American families hunkering down during Hurricane Katrina. In 2005, underdogs tying together in attics and boats, bonds forged in floodwaters that twist rescue into a precarious prison of dependence, reflecting on the irony of love's strength amid nature's wrath. The riverbank trembles as you reach it, the once serene shoreline now a quaking mess of mud and reeds, the earth splitting with deep, resonant groans that vibrate up your legs like thunder in your veins, the soil's texture turning treacherous loose and sucking under your sandals, pulling at your feet with a viscous grip that's half mud, half malice, splattering your calves in cold, slimy flecks that dry flaky and itchy. Aphrodite kneels beside you, her gown billowing in the chaotic wind that whips up from the river, carrying the briny, fishy undertone of the water mixed with the acrid bite of Typhon's distant flames, a hellish cocktail that makes your nose wrinkle and your stomach lurch. She's all grace under pressure, but you see the flicker of fear in her eyes mirroring your own as she pulls a length of cord from her girdle. Simple, twisted fibers that feel coarse and unremarkable in her hands, like fisherman's twine that's been weathered by too many storms, yet strong enough to bind fates. That inner discomfort knots tighter, a wave of irony washing over you. This cord, meant for adornment or play, now becomes your tether, the texture rough against your wrist as she ties one end around it, the knot pulling snug with a faint abrasive scrape that promises security but whispers confinement. Typhon's approach rumbles closer, the ground nut like brittle bone under strain, fissures widening with pops and cracks that echo in your ears, the air vibrating with his roars, a cacophony of serpentine hisses and bellows that rattle your teeth, the monster's shadow looming like a storm cloud devouring the horizon, flames licking the sky in orange tongues that cast flickering, erratic light across the bank. No time for arrows or arrows of love. Aphrodite draws a breath, her chest rising steady despite the chaos, and steps forward into the river, the water closing over her calves with a sudden chill that makes her gasp, the current's silky yet forceful tug yanking at her like insistent fingers, the texture cool and swirling around your legs as you follow, clinging to her with one arm while the other presses against her quiver, its leather cool and supple, arrows rattling inside like nervous heartbeats. The riverbed shifts underfoot, pebbles smooth and rounded grinding against your soles, some sharp enough to draw blood that swirls pink in the eddies, the metallic tang mixing with the water's mineral freshness to create nauseating brew that coats your lips when you splash through a wave. That discomfort peaks now, heart pounding with ironic horror. You and your mum, embodiments of beauty and passion, reduced to fish in a barrel literally as her body changes mid-stride, flesh softening and merging in a ripple that tingles through you too, legs folding into a tail with a strange fluid pull, the scales emerging like a second skin, cool and iridescent, textured like polished mosaic tiles that flex with newfound power yet feel alien and confining against the current. Your own feet flash once, then fin out, the transformation a bizarre itch turning to stretch, the cord tightening between you like a lifeline that's half harness. Siet chat your wrist with a rough, fibrous bite that cools you the skin raw, the monster's wrong among your ears even underwater, muffled to a deep, throbbing bass that vibrates through the water like an earthquake in your chest. Deeper you go, the river's depths enveloping in a blue-green gloom, the water's pressure building like a heavy blanket pressing on your chest. the texture silky but laced with hidden currents that buffet your tail. Swirling debris, twigs and silt brushing against your scales with gritty scrapes that leave faint abrasions. Bubbles escape your lips in frantic bursts, the air supply thinning as you hold your breath, lungs burning with that desperate ache. The cords tug a constant, reassuring yet restrictive pull, yanking you along in sync with Aphrodite's powerful sweeps, her former head a shimmering silhouette of fins and flowing hair that trails like seaweed. The irony twists sharper in the discomfort, a sarcastic undercurrent amid the fear this escape binds you closer than ever, the cord forever a scar of dependence, turning flight into a shared prison where love's arrow your domain means nothing against Typhon's brute chaos. Absurd tidbit bubbling up through the panic, local fish rise to shoulder you through the pull, their bodies cool and scaly pressing against yours like helpful escorts in a nightmare parade, guiding to a bend where the bank leans low, the water lightening to allow a gasp of air that tastes of clay and willow bark, sharp and earthy, coughing it out as Aphrodite gathers you close, the cords sigh at easing just enough, water streaming off in cold rivulets that chill your emerging scales. Visuals flash the riverbank Rung Chuyen under Jat Nut like veins bursting. You and Mum bien fish in the Dongtan, tails flashing silver in the murk, Pisces stars later, ribbon faint new Soichi Mongman tying 2 loops across the sky. Gratitude surges wordless as the fish vanish into gloom, their fins a final brush of smoothie fleeting aid, but the cord holds tight, a textured lifeline that chafes with every twist. The river's flow now a reluctant ally carrying you downstream, the monster's wrong fading to a distant thunder that still among your thoughts like an unwelcome echo. Historians weave debates around this escape. Pisces twin fish tied by cord might hail from Syrian cults of the fish goddess Atargatis, transmitted through Babylonian Egyptian astral lore where bound swimmers symbolized rebirth in the underworld, questioning if the Greek version fused those Near Eastern motifs of divine flight, or invented the cord as a fresh emblem of unbreakable bonds amid peril. Modern hurricanes in the U.S. Gulf Coast hit the same ironic note families like those in Katrina's floods. Underdogs tying wrists or hands in rising waters, rescue twisting into shared trauma where bonds save yet scar, reflecting on love's endurance through the deluge's chill. That recurring scar of the cord Siet etches Vinku, the ribbon faint in the stars like a thread holding 2 lives against the void, escape's prison, a eternal tie in the heavens. As the bend allows surfacing, the air rushes back sweet and ragged into your lungs, the river's bank a muddy reprieve under your tail's weight, the slime cool and yielding as you drag ashore, scales drying flaky and tight. Empathy blooms now for the underdog duo you and Mama, the wrongs aman quieting to a hum, that discomfort from the Siet unwinding into reflective chill on Bond's double edge. The river's grasp loosens like a fading nightmare, the cord's rough texture a memory that soothes in its strength, drawing you from this bound flight toward the resolution dawn, where lessons emerge from the void's quiet, that bound flight's tightening cord from Pisces starts to loosen like a knot finally giving way after the storm. The river's depths receding into a hazy memory that now lifts you from the churning waters toward the resolution, dawn a gentle culmination, where the Zodiac's underdog scars weave together into a tapestry of ironic endurance, reflecting on the gods' petty games and the mortals who outlast them, all under a sky that chills like a vast whispering blanket. You're standing at the edge of it all now, the underdog through every twist, Aries' fleeing prince, Taurus's abducted maiden, Gemini's fallen brother, and on through the cycle, gazing up at the full wheel of constellations, wheeling overhead like a grand, creaky chariot of tragedy, their lights twinkling faint and mocking against the black vault, the air crisp and cold enveloping your skin like a thin sheet of frost, seeping through your clothes with a subtle, numbing chill that raises goosebumps along your arms. The ground beneath you feels solid yet distant, packed earth cool and slightly damp from evening dew, its texture yielding just enough under your feet to ground the vertigo of looking up, while a soft wind whispers through the night, carrying faint hints of pine and distant sea salt, brushing your face like cool fingers tracing old wounds. That initial discomfort lingers from the journey, a faint echo in your chest like the pull of an old bruise, the irony of it all settling heavy the gods, Those sarcastic puppeteers on Olympus scripted every betrayal and transformation with thunderous flair, yet it's the underdogs the kids and beasts and guardians who scrape by, turning scars into stars that outshine their creators. It's like American pioneers pushing west in the 1800s, underdogs carving trails through wilderness betrayals, reflecting on the twisted, manifest destiny that left them scarred but standing. Their resilience a quiet therapy for the harsh mindset of frontier life. As the Zodiac Circle completes its turn, feel that chill empathy wrap around you, the stars' cold gleam softening the discomfort into a shared reflection. The winds whisper, carrying lessons like forgotten campfire tales. Each constellation a etched scar of survival. From the ram's golden flight to the fish's desperate bond, a recurring motif of eternal wounds that bind the heavens in silent testimony. Picture the wheel spinning slow and inexorable, lights tracing paths like a rusty Ferris wheel of fate creaking under the weight of ancient dramas. The Aries ram charging ahead with horns curved in defiant memory. Taurus's bull emerging from waves with shoulders broad and unbowed. Gemini's twins side by side yet divided by realms, their glow a fractured beacon. Cancer's faint crab creeps sideways in the summer haze. Leo's sickle hook rising with a royal flame at its heart. Virgo reclining watchful with her wheat ear like a lone candle in the harvest dusk. Libra's scales dangle sparse and even. Scorpio's tail bending with red anteras pulsing like a venomous heartbeat. Sagittarius's bow drawn eternal against the dark. Capricorn's wedge faint at the river's edge. Aquarius pouring his zigzag stream into the void, and Pisces' ribbon tying the loop in fragile unity. The absurdity twinkles absurdly from the absurd tidbit these stars, meant as sarcastic nightlights from the gods, end up guiding sailors and farmers through real nights, their light a mocking therapy for humanity's woes. Babylonians lit them for calendars, but the Greeks turned them into underdog memorials, a cosmic joke where divine spite becomes mortal roadmap. That inner irony eases now. The discomfort from each scar the altar's cold marble, the bull's slick hide, the venoms burn, the chord's chafing bite fading into a collective empathy, a warmth blooming despite the sky's chill, enveloping you like a shared blanket under the stars. Historians circle this evolution like moths to a flame. The zodiac's roots dig deep into Babylonian invention around the 3rd millennium BC. A practical tool for tracking seasons and eclipses in their ziggurat-top observatories, transmitted gradually through Egyptian intermediaries who blended it with Nile deacons and stellar gods, then exploding into Greek hands by the Hellenistic era around 200 BC, where philosophers like Ptolemy refined it into a system of fate and personality. Debates rage on, was it a straight Babylonian handoff via Persian conquests and Alexander's empire? Or did Egyptians add their cosmic spin with pyramid alignments and horary charts, the Greeks merely polishing the pearl with their dramatic myths? From and evidence points to a gradual transmission. Babylonian Mul, Appian tablets listing zodiac precursors by 1000 BC. Egyptian demotic texts adapting them for temple rituals, and Greek works like Manilius's Astronomica weaving in ethical debates on stars' influence. It's the ultimate sarcastic pivot. What started as Babylonian crop calendars ends as Greek soul searchers. Underdogs like you finding therapy in the scars, much like Great Depression survivors in the 1930s using folklore and stargazing as mindset balm. Huddled around radios in shanty towns, reflecting on zodiac-like resilience to weather economic venom, turning cosmic irony into personal grit that lulls the soul to sleep. Visuals swirl in the night air, the zodiac wheel turning like a grand ban Zebi-Keech overhead, lights pulsing with stories of underdogs gazing up from ancient hills. Phrixus alone in Colchis, eyes wide at the ram's flight, Europa on Crete's shore, hand to her mouth in stunned reflection, Castor and Pollux clasping hands in the arena's dust, Iolaus torch-lit in the swamp's gloom, Heracles draped in lion skin under Nemia's moon, Astrea clutching wheat on the dusty road, the magistrate steadying scales in the tribunal's heat, Orion stamping futilely on the plains, Crotus drawing bow on Helicon's slopes, Pan emerging scaled from the river, Ganymede pouring nectar in Olympus's hall, Eros and Aphrodite surfacing bound on the bank. Now, layer in the modern city under these stars a bustling American skyline at dusk, Skyscrapers like new Olympuses twinkling with neon scars, underdogs on rooftops or in apartments looking up from concrete jungles, the chill wind whispering lessons of endurance through traffic hums and distant sirens, reflecting on zodiac myths as therapy for the grind, empathy shared in the glow that bridges ancient voids to today's hustle. The sky's cold bow trum deepens the chill, Winditham Bear Hock across your face like cool silk, carrying faint echoes of time and river brine, textures blending into a soothing tapestry that unwinds the cycle's tensions. That discomfort from the gods' cham beam, their sarcastic scripts of betrayal and shift melts into empathetic warmth. The underdog's survival, a quiet victory, scars like sarcastic nightlights illuminating paths through the dark. Breathe it in, the air crisp and alive with possibility. The wheels turn slowing to a gentle spin that lulls the mind. Reflection dawning on resilience's shared thread from Babylonian fields to Greek myths to your own starry gaze. Let the empathy for these eternal underdogs cradle you. The chill evolving into a cozy chill that promises sleep. The zodiac's lessons a bedtime balm easing you toward the wind down, where the stars' whisper fades into peaceful void, as the zodiac's lessons cradle you in their starry embrace. That quiet from the void's edge now deepens into a final, enveloping hush, the wind's gentle caress fading like a lover's sigh, drawing you fully into the eternal star's whisper where the underdog's scars dissolve into dreams, leaving only empathy's soft glow to lull you towards sleep. You're lying there in the velvet dark of your room, the chill night air seeping through the window like a cool silk sheet draping your body, textured and light, carrying faint whispers of distant rain and pine from the world outside, easing the last remnants of discomfort from your chest. The irony of it all, that God's sarcastic betrayals turning underdogs into immortal fixtures, feels distant now. A wry smile tugging at your lips as you reflect at least your own tragedies don't get pinned up there forever, twinkling as cosmic jokes for eternity. The stars above fade softly, their light diffusing into the black like healing scars smoothing over old wounds. The recurring motif of those eternal etchings rams horns. Bulls charge. Twins divide, blurring into a peaceful haze that soothes the soul. Absurd tidbit to ponder in the twilight even today. Zodiac apps predict your fate with ironic flair, pulling from Babylonian crop charts that somehow morphed into modern horoscopes peddling love advice. A sarcastic evolution where ancient scars become coffee break therapy. It's like Zodiac as sleep aid for American adversity folks in therapy sessions post-2020 chaos. Underdogs journaling star signs to unpack pandemic scars, reflecting on resilience as the ultimate chill pill, turning divine irony into personal unwind. Your breath slows under the stars' serene watch. The wind's dewdang brush shwatan any lingering unease, a soft hum like ocean waves lapping at your ears. Visuals drift you lying the gyan in the bongtoi, body sinking into pillows soft as cloud. Stars fade into yakmo like scars mending with golden thread. Dawn breaks the cycle, light creeping pink with Hivong's warm reflection. Share your dark sign secret in the comments. What underdog scar resonates most?